Do snare wires really affect the sound of a snare drum that drastically? And do you really need to swap them out as soon as you get a snare drum? Well, that might depend on the type of drum that it is. And in the Snare Saturday series, I have showcased putting multiple snare wires on a few different snare drums, but have never done a more affordable option. So in this Snare Saturday video, I'm gonna put every snare wire that Canopus Drums has to offer on the Ludwig Rocker Steel, what was known as a student model snare drum, but now is developing a cult following, to see if snare wires really make a difference on an affordable snare drum. For those who might be unfamiliar with the channel, hi, welcome. My name is Nick Costa and I am a drummer from Philly, PA. Now before we dive into this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as the bell icon. That way you're notified of any additional content that I upload to the channel. So let's get started with the specs of the Ludwig Rocker snare drum. Like I mentioned earlier, this drum is a 5x14 shell, and this drum in particular is outfitted with 10 double-sided bow tie lugs. It is also equipped with triple flange hoops on the top and the bottom. And in the earlier Snare Saturday video where I brought this drum back to a playing condition, I upgraded the throw-off and butt plate with the Ludwig P88 AC throw-off and P35P butt plate. This drum is currently outfitted with a Remo Ambassador X-coated head on the top and an Ambassador snare side head on the bottom. And then finally, it is outfitted with the generic Ludwig snare wires that came from the factory when this drum was released. And now it is time to talk about all of the snare wires from Canopus Drums. There are two different series, the Vintage series and the Backbeat series. Starting out with the Vintage series, there are 3 different snare wires that are offered for a 14-inch drum. 2 of them are 20-strand configurations, one being a dry model and the other one being chrome-plated. And I don't even know if that's the right order. Hey, look at that. That's pretty lucky. Yeah, so we have the dry version here and then the chrome-plated version as well. And then finally, Canopus offers a 16-strand dry model as well. So you get something that is closer to what was on drums from the 60s. Now, all 3 of these models have been designed to be similar to the snare wires you would find on 60s Slingerland and Ludwig snare drums. And Canopus recommends the dry version to be on wood drums and the chrome-plated version to be on metal drums. But that doesn't mean that you have to do that. You just use your ear, and whichever one sounds best, put that one on your drum. Now, if you are somebody who is looking for a more modern snare drum sound, that is where the Backbeat models come into play. Now, starting out with the more traditional size configurations, you have a 20-strand option in both dry and chrome-plated. Once again, because the dry is supposed to be recommended for wood drums, and the chrome-plated for metal drums. Or if you are somebody who likes to have a wider snare wire configuration, you also have the Backbeat in a 30 and 42 strand configuration. Just as a fair warning, however, if you do prefer larger snare wires on your drum, make sure the drum has a wider snare bed. If you have a narrow snare bed with wider snare wires, you're going to have a couple of them hanging over those beds, and you're going to get a lot of sympathetic buzz when you're playing the drum. Now, the Backbeat series were designed for folks who are heavy hitters like myself. Somebody who really likes to dig into their drum, still wants to get a good snare wire response, but also wants to get articulation as well, especially if you want to play ghost notes or things like that. So for this video, what I am going to do is just play this drum, and I'm going to transition from one snare wire to the next. I'm going to start with the stock snare wires first. Then I'm going to transition over to the Vintage series. I'll play the 20-strand dry model first. Then switch over to the chrome-plated model. Wrapping up the Vintage series, I will play the 16-strand version. Once I get through all 3 of them, I will then go over to the Backbeat series. I'll start out with the 20 strand configurations. Once again, the dry version first. Then the chrome plated version. Then I'll move over to the larger configurations with the 30 and the 42 strand. So, enough of me talking, let's dive in. So now that you've heard this more affordable snare drum with 8 different snare wires on it, if you include the stock ones, were you hearing a difference when I was transitioning from one set to another? And did you have a favorite? I would love to know, so leave it all in the comment section below. And if you have any other additional questions on maybe how I was tuning the drum. Now for those who are curious about TuneBot settings, here is how the drum is registering with the snare wires off. The gear that I am playing in this video or anything else. You can leave that in the comment section as well, and I will try my best to answer. If you are looking to get any of the snare wires that I have featured in this video by Canopus drums, or even the snare wire belt that I am using to attach the snare wires to the throw off and the butt plate, I've put affiliate links in the description below so you can get whatever you need. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see some of the earlier Snare Saturday videos where I do the same exact thing with a few other drums, like the Black Beauty, a Copperphonic snare drum, or the Ludwig Epic Brick 20-ply snare drum for those who prefer a thicker snare drum shell, I've put links to all of those videos in the description below. And if you would like to see the earlier Snare Saturday video showcasing this rocker steel drum through a broad tuning range, I've also put the link to that video in the description below as well. If you'd like to check out the entire Snare Saturday series, you can check out that playlist, also in the description below, and I'll also have it come up right here to make it a bit easier for you. Finally, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure that you give it a thumbs up. That not only helps others find this video, it is a free and easy way to support the channel. And that is it. Thank you so much for checking out this video on Do Snare Wires Affect the Sound of an Affordable Snare Drum? And until next time, see you later.